All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Divij podcast. This is probably the biggest episode I think we've ever had, given who the fucking guest is, and I'm super stoked for it. But before we get into it, I wanted to say that this video is sponsored by Mellow, the best melatonin on the planet. Puts you to sleep like a fucking baby. Literally, you take 6 to 8 puffs of this shit. You'll be out like a light. And it's pesticide-free, drug-free. It's vegan for all my vegans out there, plant-based. And packaging looks really cool. So go check out keepmellow.com. Use code DEN, D-E-N, for 15% off your order. Again, keepmellow.com. Use code DEN for 15% off your order. Let's get into the podcast, shall we? So our guest today, we got Sarah EMIG,
EMIG, you got it.
from FBOY Island. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah,
what up?
Thank you. I'm sorry to hear you're feeling shitty. That kind of sucks.
I have COVID. Yeah, it's all good. Just kidding.
Oh, do you actually?
No, I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see if the engineers will. No, I do not have COVID. I got a rapid test before I got here, and I'm chilling. It's just I think it's just a flu. I was in New York for Fashion Week, so I'm just like pooped. Pooped.
Yeah, traveling can do that to you.
I feel like you've been traveling. I feel like every time we talk, you're like in a different city.
I know. Yeah. No, I've been in like Chicago, LA, Cincinnati, and now I'm in Maryland of all places. I'm out here for a collab, so. It's literally been like nonstop the past month. It's been crazy.
I bet it's been just wild for you. Like, do you feel the impact of the show on your life? Like,
yeah, I would say so. I think like a bunch of the other people from the show too. I think we did expect a bit more of like a following on social media.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm like getting recognized in the streets. Like I'm getting all these requests to do like podcasts and collabs. So that's cool. I think, it's just a matter of like, maximizing what we were given and see what we can turn it into.
Absolutely. I feel like it's kind of all in our hands to kind of just figure out what to do with it. And I feel like some of us are doing a great job. And I think you're definitely one of those people. I saw you on TMZ a couple times.
Yep.
That must be pretty crazy because you're from like a small town in what was it, Wisconsin?
Wisconsin?
Sorry, no, it wasn't Wisconsin. A small town somewhere.
No, my dad was in the Air Force, so I'm actually from all over the place. I used to live in like Oklahoma, DC, Japan for a couple of years, but now they live in Cincinnati. So that's actually where I'm staying now before I make the transition to LA. But yeah, came from like Chicago / Cincinnati with like 3K followers. And then now it's jumped up a little bit since then. But it's been interesting, like the transition of things.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's absolutely bonkers. But look, we only have like 30 minutes, but I really want to kind of get into like how you ended up on this show. Like, how did this happen? Like, did you growing up like so you're from a small town, did you see yourself being on like a reality show? Like, was that a goal for you ever?
It was never necessarily a goal. I've always been interested in social media and like TV shows and stuff. I'm a big fan of like The Bachelor and Too Hot to Handle and all of those shows. So I think when the guy reached out to me on Instagram. I just kept going through the interview process. And then before you know it, literally like a week later, I got the part and I had to like the next day I had to like get on a flight to go to the Cayman Islands. So it was a very like quick process for me. But yeah, I just happened to be in a good point in my career where I could get up and do that. So
right.
I was like, why not?
That's crazy. And were you, because obviously going into this experience, did you know that there was going to be like 25 dudes? Like, did they give you the rundown?
No, so we didn't even know the title. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand that when they're watching the show. They're like, oh, like, well, you go on FBOY Island looking for love. Obviously, you're not going to find love. And it's like, no, we actually didn't know the title at all. We also didn't know how the money worked. There were a lot of like unknown variables. But I think that's also what made it such a good show, too, is like, we didn't know what was going on. But in that same vein, I guess, like that's what made it all the more like watchable at the end, too. Knowing the way how everything went down.
Yeah, for sure. And it almost made it more real. Like, because I didn't know there was going to be 3 girls. I thought it was going to be an even split, but I mean, I couldn't be further from the truth.
That's what a lot of the guys said too. They thought that was going to be like Love Islands, like even guys and girls. That's what I kind of thought too. So when I found out it was just 3 girls, I was like, oh wow, okay,
crazy.
I guess we're doing this.
Crazy, but it made it more fun. I feel like, especially for you guys, probably because you have options. Like, I mean, is that crazy? Like, do you ever, when you're at a bar, right? Like, what's going through your mind? Like, because there's obviously a lot of options. You're at a bar, you see a lot of dudes. Are you getting constantly hit on? Like, were you used to that feeling of dudes just walking up to you like every 5 seconds?
I would say, yeah, that was not a new feeling, but also at the same time, I've never been the type of girl to like objectify a guy or like go based off of appearances. Like I'm very much a personality person.
Sure.
And so for like that first interaction we had with all you guys, for example, when we had to hand out the wristbands, I was like, I don't fucking know what to do with this. I just like handed out 3 like random ones to random people. And I didn't end up with like any of those guys. So
it was, I think it was Rhino. Rhino, who's out episode 2 or 3, and then who else did you give it to? I think it was
Rhino, Colin, and Anthony. So very like random.
Did you give it to Colin because Nikki gave it to Colin and you wanted to like instigate, or was that just, or did she give it to her first?
No, I gave it to Colin first. Actually.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
Got you.
But,
so that day at that when we all walk out, obviously for us, like we're all terrified, like we're all just fucking anxious. We don't know what to do. It's hot. For you, it must be kind of a similar like experience. So what's going through your mind that first day when you see us all standing there?
The first day was for sure the most overwhelming. Like I just remember walking out and they're like, okay, here's your big grand entrance. Like do whatever you want to do. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like this is the first time we're meeting Nikki. It's the first time we're meeting all the guys. Yeah. So I think I ran out and just did like what do you even call that? I did like a high fives to like all the guys. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't know. I'm not a big like dramatic person. That was definitely overwhelming though, because that was our first time meeting Nikki too. And I have been a fan of Nikki for years. Like I've watched all of her Netflix specials and like listened to a bunch of podcasts that she's been on.
Yeah.
So it was like meeting her and then also having to like make all these decisions about the guys. It was very overwhelming for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Not to mention it was like 110 degrees. There's literally like 70. And like literally 75 camera people. Like a lot of pressure. For sure.
Yeah.
So okay. So you get there. Obviously, you didn't give me a wristband, and I was pretty butthurt. But no. No. But so I think it was that night we went to the pool, and obviously, like we're all having a great time. Like we're in the pool, we're swimming. Paul's making these weird jokes to you. Fucking Garrett's coming at you, being all aggressive, but in a good way. You seem to like it. Was Garrett? Because obviously you had a pretty wild journey with him, kind of throughout the whole experience. Like. When you saw him that first night, did you kind of have an instinct of, oh, he might be the one, or like you didn't know?
Well, okay, here's the thing about Garrett, and people can say what they want about him, but something that he did very good from the start was he took initiative with the situation. So like a lot of the guys, I think like held back a lot and they like played it safe and they waited for us to go up to them. But this is a competition, right? And so you're going to get ahead by spending more time with the girls. And I think that's something that Garrett got right away. Like he immediately, made sure that I noticed him, made sure that we spent time together. And every time that we did spend time together, he always would like bring something like an interesting element to the conversation. Like he would always have like a list of questions or like something really annoying, but it always like got my attention and it always like showed that he was there and like wanted to be there, which is more than I can say for a lot of the guys.
100%. I think a lot of us were nervous. Like I was in my head a lot of the times, but Garrett, because I was his roommate, so I had a lot of time with him kind of outside.
Oh, you were? Okay. Were you the fourth one? Then?
I was the fourth. It was me, Josh, Greg, and Garrett. So I had a lot of time to kind of like experience Garrett as a person, and I could say like to this day, like we hang out a lot. Like he's probably one of the kindest humans that I've actually ever met. Although he is probably the biggest fuckboy in America. Like let's be honest, but he's good at it. Like he's just really good at it. I don't know. So So episode 1, elimination. I think you got rid of, who was it? Peter? No, was it Peter? Oh, it was Andrew.
Andrew was the first one I eliminated, which I kind of feel bad about because he definitely didn't deserve that. But I think I just remember having a really like weird interaction with him, and we just had to make a decision.
Yeah.
And I just made one. I don't know.
That's
I thought
crazy.
he was able to come back at some point, so I think that's why I just like did that without thinking about it. But
right. Yeah. Poor Andrew. No, great guy.
I know.
But I think at the mansplain, I think you were asked like, oh, did you have any regrets throughout the whole thing? And I think you said like, oh, like eliminating Andrew was like one of your regrets.
Yeah, eliminating Andrew, and then also Welcome to was like another one. I wish I had kept him around more. But yeah, those eliminations towards the end got like really stressful.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because like I feel like the first couple episodes obviously you got rid of a lot of people, and I feel like you have to do it like because if you want to get to your goal at the end of the day, you got to start eliminating all these people. When did it start to become like really difficult for you, like emotionally?
I would say it never really got any easier. Like even
Yeah.
the first elimination, I just remember being so nervous for it. And then like when you watch it back, it's like just such a quick moment, and it was like so easy, or it seemed so easy. But I just remember feeling like so guilty and like nervous in the moment because we're like, okay, we're getting rid of these guys. Like we're the reason like they're leaving right now. But I would say the hardest elimination for me was when I was down to my final three and I ended up eliminating Welcome,
Yeah.
because Garrett had we had a lock in our answers before the eliminations,
Yeah.
before we actually did them, and so like I'd already locked in my answer to eliminate Welcome, which I was already feeling sad about, but then Garrett just gives this like god awful speech, and I'm like, I completely made the wrong decision here. Like he's not here for the right reasons, like
Yeah.
all this stuff, and I felt like I don't know, I was just giving time to guys that didn't deserve it really.
Sure. Did you ever almost eliminate Garrett? Like, was there ever a moment where you were like, I'm actually going to send this guy home?
Yeah, so that was that elimination where I actually tried to change my mind and like tell producers that I changed my mind because I was like, I know Garrett for a fact isn't here for the right reasons.
What?
I know you guys know that too, but at that point it was already too late, and like you can't really go back on your decision once you've made it. So
Yeah.
then yeah, it's just so interesting, like the change of feeling from that moment to like the end where I still end up choosing him.
Crazy.
Um, yeah, which I know makes no sense to people, but
It doesn't, but it does. It's almost like there's a saying. I forget the saying, but it's like we want what like if it's too easy, you're not going to want it. And I feel like, or maybe too comfortable is a better word. Like, I feel like your relationship with Josh from the outside, to me, it seemed like, and I think you even said this, like he was older. Obviously, I think he had like 10 years on you. And like he played more of like a dad role in a sense, or like is very safe. Is that how you felt with him? Like, yeah.
yeah, and I think that's what it came down to. And obviously, like age isn't like the like a complete excuse. Like I know
Yeah.
plenty of relationships that work out that where the age is different. But what I do think is important is that you're in the same like stage in life.
For
And like
sure.
although like Josh is honestly like picture perfect on paper, and I feel like a lot
Perfect.
of girls can, or like people in general can relate to this. Is like I had two very different options at the end. I had one picture perfect option where I knew everyone wanted me to choose him, and that was Josh. And we had the same interests. We were like,
Yeah.
looking to move in the same area, all this stuff. And then on the other hand, I had this complete F boy for whatever reason I still liked, and I still wanted to keep him around because I thought he was interesting or whatever. We had a good connection. And so I really was torn at the end. And I think what it came down to for me and Josh is like he was safe, and I felt like I came on a TV show. I didn't want to play it safe. I didn't wanted to take advantage of the opportunity, and well, not take advantage. That's the wrong word, but like I was like, you know what, I'm gonna stay true to myself, and
For
that's
sure.
something I have to like. I am still proud of myself to this day, and that's why I have no regrets. Is because I did stay true to myself the entire time, and I feel like if I chose Josh and ultimately didn't want to be with him, that would have felt fake to me. So I
Interesting.
wanted to stick to my guns and like stay true to myself and choose Garrett, who might have been, some would argue the wrong option, but that's again why I have no regrets because that was just how I was feeling. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it makes sense. I mean, the dude is like, he's very interesting. And I feel like he's, from a friend perspective, I see him as very chaotic but in a good
Mhm.
way, and that's what keeps him kind of like, or people around him, I think, interested about who he is as a person. And yeah, Garrett's awesome. But so interesting. I kind of want to rewind a bit
Yeah.
to the moment of where you're you're on Skype or FaceTime with Garrett's ex-girlfriend or potentially even girlfriend at the time. Like, what the fuck is going through your mind?
Yeah. Well, I came into that interaction. Well, first of all, I think this is my best moment on the show where I call Garrett out after we do the social media deep dive, and
Agreed.
I give him the ultimatum. I'm like, you can either one, get this girl on a FaceTime, or you can pack your shit and leave. Because
Yup.
no one could believe anything that he was saying. Like I think you can tell as the audience too. He'll just like say things for shock value sometimes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your story is. Like we got to get something straight. So let's get this girl on a phone call. And what I was expecting to walk into was her saying like, "Oh, he's a horrible person. Like he broke up with me to be on the show. Like he can't be trusted. All this stuff." But it was like the exact opposite, and like to the point where it was like, are they in cahoots together? Because she's saying that they had a mutual breakup. She
Hmm.
supported him being there and that he could be trusted. And I know the editing makes it seem like really awkward, and it was awkward, but I don't know, they make it seem like they're in cahoots, but it's confirmed after the show they were not together. And I felt like I had an obligation to believe the girl, even though I couldn't trust what Garrett was saying. I could at
Yeah.
least trust what the girl was telling me.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it. Like the way that they put it together, it made it seem like they were
Yeah.
kind of they're kind of in on it together. But I was just surprised that he didn't like delete all the pictures because you guys went through the
Right.
social media and it's like, bro, it was in February, which is when we got to the island. Like, super sketch.
Super sketchy. That is the one thing to this day. I'm like, well, why didn't you delete the photos?
Yeah,
And I think, well, his excuse was that they were just good photos and he liked them.
yeah, that's what
And
he
I
told me.
if that came out of anyone else's mouth, I think that would have just sounded like an excuse to me. And like, oh, you clearly still have feelings for her or whatever. But I think that's just genuinely how his brain works. He actually thinks they're like cool photos, and just wanted to keep them up there. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. To me, if
You can
I'm
at
in
least archive them though. You can archive them and then put them back.
exactly, or like,
That's
yeah, like save it to your camera roll, bro. You don't need to have to. You know, he's funny, or at least
exactly.
like make your profile private or something, But
Yeah.
I see that perspective. Like he's a big photo guy. When we're hanging out, he's always wanting to take photos and shit. So it makes sense. Interesting. So at a point where like when you get to a point of like your relationship with Josh and Garrett is kind of like at their peaks, right? I think there was a moment of you guys like doing the art, and this is a question I wanted to ask you: is when they both did the pictures on the beach and they're doing their art, Garrett draws a bunch of money signs, and then Josh has all this like creative, like cool, like we're gonna be together forever type inspiration. Like, how did you not, or did you know that Garrett would choose the money because he kind of had like a bunch of fucking dollar signs all over his art?
So okay, I think a couple things here.
Yeah,
Obviously, like as an audience, it's going to be obvious to you where the plot is going because you're the audience. Like that's the point. They're going to show you the confessionals. They're going to show you like the title is FBOY Island.
mm-hmm.
How like maybe how the money works at the end too. But for me, like as with the painting, I think Josh's painting was pretty boring. Like sorry, Josh, if you're watching. But his painting was like a little bit boring. And what I liked about Garrett's is that he like put a lot of like feeling into it. I don't know, even though they were both horrible paintings. But the reason why I didn't think Garrett was there for the money, I mean, he said multiple times, like, too, he's like pretty well off in life.
Yeah.
And investing and stuff is important to him and like finance or whatever. But I think he realizes too that like 100K isn't really realistically like that much money if you're looking to like, do anything with it.
For sure.
So I knew he wasn't there for the money. And I think that, part of the painting, I guess, was just like showing that it's an important part of his life.
Right. Like abundance.
But I could totally see how that is foreshadowing to what actually happened at the end.
I'll be honest with you. When we get to final elimination, like, because I didn't see, obviously I wasn't there, so I didn't see what happened until the end when everyone else saw it. I was fucking shocked because we had multiple conversations, me and Garrett, about like money and like, we knew that, he comes from an abundant, he's abundant and like his life is well off. So like I had the same perspective of like 100K is not going to be life changing. Like he probably already has like a bunch of fucking money. So who would need it? But when he pulled that shit, I was like, what? Like,
yeah,
that was crazy. So what's going through your mind, like going into final elimination? Like, are you scared? Are you happy, nervous?
Well, so again, just like with every elimination, for this one, we also had to lock in our answers before. And this is before we knew how the money worked whatsoever.
Yeah.
I even thought there was a universe just because the girls had been making the eliminations every single week. I thought there was a universe where the girls would be able to take the money and not choose the guy. So the fact that it was the other way around, like that was a complete shock to me. And I didn't like, there was not a thought in my mind that the guys would have the final say in the money. So even though I knew Garrett was a riskier choice than Josh, I still in a way felt safe because I thought, there would be some sort of like mutual decision about the money. And again, I knew he wasn't there for the money. If anything, I knew he was there for like clout and fame, but let's be honest, who goes on a reality TV show not looking for clout or fame?
It's facts.
But I think him choosing the money, even though like, I mean, in that moment, I just saw red. Like I was the angriest I've probably ever been. I felt like tricked. I felt lied to. All this stuff, and it just seemed like it seemed more stupid on his part. I was like, I didn't think he was that like stupid, really. It's like a stupid business decision. You forever labeled yourself like as an F-boy. It could have been a mutual like win-win situation where we both get 50K and we can both walk away from this. We don't have to be in a relationship after the show. So for me, I was just like more so in a state of shock where I was like, I just didn't, both of these are just like scenarios that I didn't think was going to happen. So that was definitely a big moment.
It's crazy. But then, I mean, at the end of it, obviously they gave the money to a charity, right? Is that what happened at the end?
Yeah, so the twist is the 100K doesn't end up going to an FBOY because they don't want FBOYs to be rewarded. It ends up going to a charity of my choosing. So I think if anything, like that's probably the, like, again, why I have no regrets. Everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
I think I wasn't meant to come out of the show with a relationship. And on top of that, I get to give 100K to a foundation that really deserves it. And it can all go to a greater cause, which I think is
Where
really
did
cool.
you end up giving the money to? What was the charity?
So the charity I chose, or the foundation I chose, is called Thorn. So it's a foundation created by Ashton Kutcher to help prevent against human trafficking, specifically dealing with children.
Wow.
So if you don't already know, that's a huge, huge issue in the US. There's like hundreds of thousands of kids that go missing every single year. And it's not something that really gets picked up on traditional media.
Yeah.
So it's something that I wanted to shine a light on and hopefully bring some change to, because essentially they just create technology that helps prevent people being sold on the black market, which I think is really cool.
That is really, really cool. It's crazy. I actually took a class on human trafficking, and like,
oh really?
Yeah, what's crazy is it happens in broad daylight. Like it could be happening next door at like a laundromat, or like, I think there was a whole thing. This might have been like some fake shit, but I think it was like wayfair.com or something was like,
yeah, I remember seeing that too.
That's crazy. There was like a massive like cupboard or something that was selling for super expensive, and everyone thought it was like human trafficking. I don't know, but I love that you chose that charity. I think that's super cool for sure. So what do you kind of see next for yourself? Like, do you want to go on another reality show? Or are you planning to take this in a different direction? Like what's next for Sarah?
Well, I'm definitely open to being on another show. I think this time though, I'd want to know the title before I jumped into things. I think my strategy would be a bit different. But that being said, I think right now I'm trying to focus on my career, and I'm wanting to do a bunch of collabs and podcasts and stuff. I want to start a podcast of my own too. Yeah. So maybe you can help me out with that.
Yes, absolutely.
But I also am passionate about DJing and mental health too. So I think I'm still in the process of learning how to DJ, but that's a big goal for me for this year. I want to, get into that and play at a festival or something like that. So
that'd be super sick. That would be so dope. Yeah, I remember you mentioned that on the show. But yeah, no, that's super cool. Like mental health, I feel like is something that is just not spoken about enough. And what's crazy is we all have like our own mental health journeys. Like you never, like I was on a plane, I was at New York Fashion Week and coming back, and like the dude next to me recognized me from the show, and we started having a conversation. Yeah, and he started exposing everything about his life, about how like depressed he was, and like his mom dying, like all this shit happening. And I would have thought about that like sitting next to him, So I think, yeah, mental health is super important. So yeah, we should definitely chop it up on some mental health shit for sure.
Yeah, I was actually considering, before I settled on Thorn, I was considering donating to a mental health charity. But I figured I was already going to be talking about it enough on my platforms. And I feel like the only time where I've personally felt helped with mental health issues is like when I've heard someone else's experience. So I think that's cool that you're, looking to talk about on the podcast more.
For sure. Absolutely. Where do you see your mental health journey? Like, did this show help you kind of with that at all?
Help me?
I can only imagine. Like for me, it was like I spent 2 months by myself or with the boys, like doing yoga and fucking meditating, and it was great. Obviously for you, it may not have been the same, but
yeah, no, I feel like it was super fun for all you boys, but for us, great. It was stressful. But I will say not having our phones for 2 months was actually like a really, like, I loved it. Like at the end, I didn't want my phone back. Like that's how like relaxing it was. But I do think the show made me like a stronger person. Like I think before I was more of a chill, like go with the flow type of girl, but now I can like definitely say like I have been, I don't know, I can just be more decisive about my life, not only in relationships. Like I can say like what I like, what I don't like, and not feel weird or like apologetic for being like demanding. I feel like girls can be crazy for like wanting certain things from a guy or like wanting certain things out of life or in business. But now I'm just like, I'm less apologetic about that and more focused on like what I want.
That's amazing. What do you want in a man, like moving forward? Like what are like the like most important qualities you think based on what you've learned?
Well, I don't think my qualities have so much changed from what they were on the show. So I think the top 3 things that I look for in a guy is someone who is ambitious, someone who I can have like intelligent conversations with, and someone with a sense of humor. So like those 3, I'm definitely, those things haven't changed and are still things that I look for. But I think I can more, obviously like more closely examine like red flags and like be like, oh, that's something that I don't want in a guy. So it's more so showed me like what I don't want versus like what I do want.
Yeah, you got to be like a complete dating expert now, like from all this
Yeah.
fucking, yeah, that's crazy. Yo, well, I think we gotta wrap it. But yo, thank you so much for coming on, Sarah. If people don't follow you already, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's sarah.emig, and then I am releasing a couple, like one or two of my first YouTube videos this week. It's just my name, Sarah Emig, and then I'm also on TikTok as well. Just my name. I'm pretty easy to find. I have a unique last name. So
yeah, you do. Well, yo, thank you so much, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Make sure you guys go follow Sarah. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, and stay tuned for another episode coming soon. I think we might be having CJ and Nakia on, but we'll see. They're both very busy. But yeah, thanks again, Sarah. You're the best. And make sure you guys, again, subscribe, follow Sarah, follow your boy, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye, Divij. Thank you.
See ya. Peace.
Bye.